My name is D.S. Prashant. I was raised in a village called Makazan in the Salset Taluka, and my early days were spent in the village. I did my graduation in agricultural sciences, and then I joined Glaxo India Limited. And during this period of time, I could had good exposure to the kind of challenges which the agri-vet division was facing, because I was part of the agri-vet division of Glaxo India Limited. And then I always had in my mind to come and work in the business aspects or areas within Goa. Then I did my post graduation in agricultural economics, and in the year 2000 I came back to Goa and started working on a project of the Government of India to promote micro enterprises. So we used to go to the villages, we used to talk about the various aspects about starting up micro enterprises and motivate the people to start businesses. And the people started telling us that when you come and tell us, you make it so easy, you tell it is so easy to start a business, but it takes a lot of time and efforts to even start a business, forget about making it successful and running it. And during that point of time, there were certain schemes which came into implementation. So we got an opportunity to work on various projects at that given point of time. So from 2000 to 2010, we spent a lot of time to promote micro enterprises in the state of Goa. And we could promote close to 2000 plus small enterprises with small funding for the benefit of the promoters. And in the year 2010, the government said, what about those ideas which are very, very innovative in nature and which is not supported at all, either from organized sectors like banks. Again, these ideas, the people don't know whether these ideas will work, can be taken forward, can they be mentored, can they be handheld, can they be given at least some information whether they are working on the right idea or not. So we never knew at that given point of time that there is a formal section known as incubation process towards it. And then we took the initiative of setting up the incubation process, and the government also sent us to Europe, to US for training programs to understand how to run an incubation system. And from 2012, we started implementing the incubation process. And today we have a very, very good understanding of how a startup who has a very unique idea which could disrupt the world should be supported from day one. So when we were running the projects of implementation of incubation, the Government of India came out with a new project known as Nidhi TBI. Nidhi is National Initiative for Developing and Harnessing Innovations. So as it was a very big project, the thought process was that it should be implemented in such a way that lot of innovators and startup founders can benefit out of it. So we thought that it needs to be attached to an academic institutions which is proactive, which is supportive of these kind of initiatives, and thus the Nidhi TBI, which is formally known as FIRE, happened out of Don Bosco College of Engineering, Fatorda. So we kick-started the initiatives in the year 2018. Formal inauguration was in the year in the month of December 2018. And we found that we had a large number of founders and startups who were interested to be part of this initiative, because we had already built the kind of rapport in the ecosystem that we have been supporting startups. And we found that there were a number of agri-tech related startups who came forward, number of education tech startups which came forward, and we were also finding that there were certain product based startups which came forward. So initially it was about getting more numbers into the ecosystem. The whole idea was about creating a buzz and energy within the incubator so that more and more startup can come and they can interact among themselves and learn from the achievements and the failures of each other. One of the most important aspects within an incubator is to allow and make sure that there is a lot of interaction happening within the startups. So the idea was that how do we promote that particular aspect during the early phases. So as I mentioned, the initial phase of the first 2 years was to get large number of startups. So we could reach out to a large number of startups and get close to 100 of them associated with us. Then the next question was, how do we support them deeply? So we identified around 45 of them whom we thought we should support deeply, because times are different today. During the initial phase when we started in 2010, 2012, when we were incubating, any support was appreciated by the startup. Even a small advice was appreciated by the startup. But today things are different. Startup is a very focused area. People are investing their time and energy and looking at this as a career option. So unless and until you give them the most holistic view of it and correct information of starting a startup, it doesn't work. For example, nobody can stop somebody from starting from their home and building a product. But you'll spend 6 months, you'll spend 12 months building a product which nobody wants, or a product which is inferior to another established product. So the whole idea of the incubator is you have to learn as soon as possible whether your idea can fit into a scalable business idea, whether you can build a business model around it, whether you have the right kind of mentors and experts who can support this, and also a little bit of funding at a very early stage, and whatever other support is required for a startup needs to be given holistically. So our approach after the second year was, how do we dig deeper? How do we make sure that the startups are supported in a much more deeper way? And we also came out with a lot of learnings of our experience over these last 3 years, which we are implementing at present and we wish to implement in the future too. So as FIRE, as an incubation center, we are broadly classifying this into 4 broad segments. The first segment is incubation. In an incubation, somebody can come with an idea and ask whether my idea will work, take a feedback. If he wants, he can get a cubicle, he can get a work desk space to work upon, he can get a little bit of mentorship, advisory, and he will be taught or guided or informed about the potential of his idea. That comes in the first part, that is incubation. Second part is acceleration. During acceleration, when somebody knows that this is the idea which I want to go forward with, this is the one which I am going to invest my time and energy upon, then you need a lot of deep support. You need to build that viable product. You need to have some experts talking to you. You need to have access to test your product with industry and other system. So that we club under the acceleration program. That is the second aspect. Third aspect is of building a prototype. So once you know this is my idea, once you know this is the idea you are going to spend your life on or your energies on, then third thing is you need to build some small prototypes and test whether it is workable or not, people are liking it or not, and so on. So we facilitate the prototyping system. And the fourth part is people should also put in money and some kind of financial support for this project. Otherwise, it is very difficult to raise funds just on an ideation itself. Why you need funding at a very early stage? So that you build your minimum viable product, you build your testing product, and is in a position to showcase it to some big investors. So this kind of funding support is also provided. So broadly classifying, we have advisory which comes and space which comes at incubation, deep support system and interactions at the acceleration stage, building your product in a small way in the prototyping stage, and funding and other support in the funding stage. So when a startup will come in, basically he would want to understand if this idea can become successful and become a scalable product. So first point is, can I work in an ecosystem where I can make it look like a professional setup, and I will get support on a regular basis. So as I said, it is always advisable for somebody to work in that environment. So because of that kind of requirement, we are providing a co-working space or an incubation space or a desk space. It's kind of a hot desk which has internet support facilities, which has an air conditioned modern environment, also access to meeting rooms, conference room, and also prototyping labs, and then other areas, common areas of recreation, etc., a cafeteria, a pantry. All these things are provided, which will help a very young innovator to have a very professional setup within the incubator. So as an incubation center, we have identified what are the core aspects required to support the ecosystem or the founders. One of the basic input which we wanted to give to them was to give them access to experts, not only in their area of expertise or what we call as domain, but also in the area of business expertise, also in the areas of marketing expertise, also in the areas of financial expertise, and so on. So we got a pool of other support system like chartered accountants, lawyers, business experts, and other people to come and support the startups. But what we found was that there was a dearth of quality mentorship within the local ecosystem who could mentor startups, because startups are very disruptive in nature, very unique in nature, and very innovative in nature. There were a lot of mentors who could give guidance about running a company, but running a startup was a completely different ball game. So we found that we need more startup mentors and experts who could come and give support to the startup. So that was one of the biggest challenge. Another challenge was that we found that the startups were also not having that kind of enthusiasm or the motivation or the wherewithal or the information to ask the right questions. When they find a right mentor who has built a company, then it becomes imperative for the startup to go and ask the right question, shadow him, push him to get more information and build your own company. So that basic information, basic understanding of what are the right kind of questions to ask at a very early stage, how do I tap into the information and resource available with a scaled up entrepreneur, was missing at a certain time. So I thought that at a very initial stage, it was more about capacity building, more about information. Second part was about getting the startup connected to industries. So if a startup has an idea, I thought that it would make a huge difference if some of the industries could come forward and give access for the startup to pilot it within their enterprise and see if there is a scope for development of this product. In this way, the benefit to the startup is that he will be able to pilot it and test out his product in the live ecosystem in a real world scenario. And for a company or for an industry, the biggest advantage is that they will be in a position to test what are the latest technologies or innovations happening and whether there is a possibility for them to start imbibing those kind of innovations within their industry at a very early stage. So basically it's a win-win situation if there is a compatibility and match between both the players. So I think these were the two main challenges, more at the conditioning level or more at the cooperation level. One of the biggest challenge I foresee for the future within the ecosystem, within this ecosystem is we need to have a large pool of people who are looking at startups as a career option. Unless we build an ecosystem where we have a large pool of people working on diverse ideas, diverse innovations, not people who are just repeating and copying what is done in the other ecosystem. Why I'm saying is that is every region has its own challenges, every region has its own uniqueness, and every region has its own set of problems. So until and unless this large pool of talent come forward and try to solve these challenges, we may not have quality startups who could become investable. Today, industry and investors are looking at startups as one of the biggest investable area. They are looking at startup arena as one area where they can actually make a lot of money and make a lot of dent. So if we have quality startups, we'll be able to do that. If we don't have quality startup within our ecosystem, quality startups from different ecosystems will come and fill in that gap. So unless and until we build that quality within our startup ecosystem, I see we will face challenges in the days to come and we will feel that we are far behind in this race of startups. There are certain questions which startups ask regularly. One of the most pertinent question is, why an incubator? Why can't we do it from home? So as I said, if you are building something which is scalable, if you are building something for the world, you should not invest a lot of your time to build something which has no value. And if you need to build something which has more value, you need to talk to people at a very early stage of building your business. Not talk to your friends and relatives who will say, wow, very good, you are into startups. But people who will challenge you, people who will say that this idea is not going to work, and people who will give you alternatives and ideas about how you can build a better business. And an ecosystem where all these facilities are provided is an incubator. And at FIRE, we provide very deep tech support, particularly in the area of tourism tech, waste management, mobility, clean tech and related areas. We work very closely with government and corporates. We have investors who are helping to get these startups up and invest in them. And we also have our own funding to help the startup at a very initial stage. Today, funding is available in plenty, but we are falling short of good investable ideas. So my request to all the startup is that even if you don't want to work out from an incubator, it is fine. But you need to come to an incubator and check out what are the facilities available there and see if your idea is having a match with the facilities offered by the incubator. And at FIRE, we do have plenty of support system available for startups. You just have to come here and ask for those benefits. So as we started supporting startups after the second year, we found that the startups wanted very deep rooted support for their startup to scale up. And then we were thinking, what can Goa offer? And we found that Goa is a world-class destination for tourism, and the aspiration of the government of Goa is to make Goa into a world-class tourism destination by 2030. And if we really need to convert that aspiration into a reality, it has to be done with the help of technology, because technology will be the disruptor in the years to come. And without technology, we will not be in a position to leverage and make Goa into world-class destination. So we thought, rather than thinking about it, let us do a pilot. We did India's first tourism accelerator program to see how startups will look at Goa as an audience. We were surprised to find that we received close to 70 applications from across 7 countries from startups who were only related to tourism, and from 25 cities from across the country. It was supported by the Tourism Department, Government of Goa, by Goa State Innovation Council, and multiple other partners from within the ecosystem, including the TTAG, Travel and Tourism Association of Goa. And we received very good support both from the corporate sector and from the government to pilot these startups and take it forward. And we found that if we utilize a few of the support system offered by the startup, we can make a huge difference to our industry. Now the idea is, how do we bring this international startup, this national startup, and make them work with our local startup? The prerogative or the concept of FIRE now going forward is, how do we build this network of connection between our startups and international startups and build world-class startups, particularly in the area of tourism, tech, from Goa. And I think we have a very clear map. We have very clear partners associated. Government of Goa is keen to support this initiative. The associations are keen to support these initiatives, and I hope the ecosystem, the local ecosystem particularly, can leverage this and take benefit out of this initiative.